I feel a deep, profound need to give you folks a lecture on being parents because I think there are very few non-sucky parents out there, even amongst my listeners. Because day after day, my kid's 62, living in my house, I'm paying the bills. Is this okay? When do you want them to be an autonomous adult? Oh, well, like the lady yesterday, I had a long and windy journey to where I am. Well, can't your kid have his own? I just want him to bypass everything miserable. Oh, and you want to co-opt somebody else's life to make up for the mistakes you made? I mean, really. One of the most important criteria of being a parent is to be sacrificing, not parasiting. The primary goal of a parent is to raise a fully functional adult who can take care of him or herself and make a positive contribution to society. That is your job, not making sure your little offspring is happy every day. The word happy is not in there. The primary purpose of a parent is to raise a fully functional adult who can take care of him or herself and make a positive contribution to society. Generally speaking, this is accomplished by 18. After that age, you can manipulate, but you don't really have influence. And those of you who allow your 20, 30, whatever kids to come home and then call me about, well, can I give a curfew? I'm going to get sort of a bean bag that I'm going to say is my head, and I'm going to drop it on the desk to make that kind of sound, to sound like I've just slammed my head into the desk, thud. To keep from strangling you through the phone? Did a psychotherapist just say strangle somebody who called through the phone? Yep, that's pretty much me. So there are 10 qualities of a fully functional adult. You probably don't know any of them. I'm being really snarky this morning. So I'm going to explain them to you so you can stop screwing up with your kids. 1, the value of hard work. I hear say a lot that the people who really excel are not the A students, it's the B students. First of all, the A students are B students. There's great inflation. There are very few A students who actually are A students anymore. You can't tell them from anybody else because you're not allowed to make the B students feel bad. God forbid a C student should cry. There are many ways hard work can be taught. Sports, drama, school, music, chores, part-time employment. Talent only takes you so far. Dedication, perseverance, determination takes you the whole way. It takes perseverance to struggle through the difficulties of a task to get to completion. And the work must be done by the child, not you making their science project. I have a story about that. There was a science fair at my school when I was in middle school. And the day before, we all had to bring something. The day before, one of the rare times in my life I procrastinated. Truly, one of the rare times. But there it was the night before, and I thought, I better do something. It's due tomorrow. So I went outside, and we had beautiful crocuses, which is back east, a really nice, pretty plant. And I got a whole bunch of them, and I got a big poster board piece of paper, and I took it apart and made lines, and it was a little chaotic. Who cares? I was just going to bring it in. It didn't matter to me at that point. It didn't matter to me. But I did the best I could, being whatever age 10, 11, I don't know what age I was. I was pretty young. Shorter than I am now. Well, It was done, and I was going to bring it to school the next day. My dad came home from work, came into my room for some reason and saw the thing and said, "What's that?" I said, "It's my science project." Well, a science project done by a little kid who's doing it the night before and really doesn't care doesn't look that splendid, shall we say. My dad, who has long since passed, threw one of his raging, angry fits at me, yelling, screaming, carrying on, scaring the crap out of me. Made me go out and get some more. By this point, there were hardly any plants left, and told me to type the names, and everything had to be at right angles, and he was an engineer. Okay, so this did not look like specifications. I was up till God knows what time in the morning. I could barely see, crying continuously because he never stopped yelling, getting this project together. Okay, it was all together, and it looked very nice. Of course it did. An adult did it. By the way, he never did this again because of what happened. I go to school the next day. They give me the table. They give me the easel. I put the thing on it. A team of teachers comes by and says, "This is Laura Schlesinger. Okay, talk about your project." I stood there and stared like I was in a coma with my eyes open. Never said a word. Never even acknowledged my name. I just stood there. You know why? Even at that age, I had integrity. Looking back, I didn't do it. It wasn't my project. I was not going to say a word. I was not going to defend it, support it, describe it. It wasn't mine. I said nothing. At this point, they probably thought, something was terribly wrong with my brain, because they kept trying to engage me in conversation, and I just stared. Didn't say a word. I remember it vividly. I remember standing there feeling like a shivery cold sweat, and it was warm in the room. At night, phone rings in my house. Teacher is on the phone, and I speak to Mr. Schlesinger. So my dad gets on the phone. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Really? Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Okay. Went on like that for about a minute. Phone is, "Thank you very much for calling." Phone hangs up. "Laura, come here. Sit down." I sat down. At this point, I really didn't know what was going to happen because I didn't realize the teacher was going to call the house. So it didn't dawn on me. I was too young to think that that was the next step. And he says, "That was your teacher." Shit. This is going to be a bad night. He said, they said you wouldn't discuss your project. I just sat there and didn't say a word to him either. And he said, "Why?" It wasn't mine. Dead silence in my kitchen. Dead, creepy silence in my kitchen. And that was it. He never interfered again to try to make it perfect. I got a 0 because I wouldn't talk. But I think the teacher had a notion of what happened because the damn thing looked unbelievably perfect. Really. I don't even think I scotch taped the words. I typed them. That was it. I did cut up the plant. Delicately. I had good steady hand to do dissections. That was the last time parent interrupted. Parent interruptus, as we call it. Got to teach your kids to work hard and create it on their own. How are they ever going to be able to do that if you prove to them how inadequate they are that you have to do it? So my dad learned from an 11, 12-year-old who just sat there, super glue on her lips, getting along with others. You really got to teach your kids, I hate to say it this way, but how to play the game of getting along with all sorts of people If you go into a cafeteria at any school, you see groups. The nerds, the jocks, the artsy people in the drama school, whatever. Academics, the science majors. Everybody tends to coagulate into little same groups. Not good. Diversification is supposed to be the word of the day. Well, you got to teach your kids that. I mean, I have a very eclectic group of friends. And it's really interesting when you have discussions because then you get points of view from left field in your head. Like, really? I hadn't looked at it that way either. Now, kids want to identify with peers. It makes them feel secure, but you got to tell them to get out of that and be able to get along with anybody because in life you have to. Spending money wisely. That's best taught by modeling. There's a budget. A lot of you want to spare your kids from knowing how tight things are, how much things cost bad. That brings shock and overwhelms kids when they find out the reality. There was one great scene, I'm sorry, from the Bill Cosby show about the Huxtables. I know the guy's a scumbag, but the show had interesting qualities to it. Sort of ironic, so much ethics, morals, and values in a show for a guy who did such disgusting things to women. However, there was one scene where his older son wants to move out of the house and take care of him, have his own place and make up his own rules. So Cosby, the dad, takes out Monopoly money, says, okay, what do you earn in your job? Takes that money. And then starts taking it away piece by piece, dollar by dollar, for what he has to spend it on, until we were in negatives. That was a good learning lesson. The kid realized, I can't afford it. They have to learn how to afford it. Now, when I was in school as a kid, they taught home economics. Boys took shop. I thought everybody should take home economics and learn about doing your own laundry, cleaning the bathroom, making your meals, picking up after yourself, doing household chores, ironing, sewing on a button, minor repairs, minor things on a car, purchase their clothing. Those who are not taught these things tend to go home in their 20s and 30s to have their mommy and daddy take care of them because they don't even know how to do laundries. Teaching your kids to deal with crises. Just yesterday, the cat died. No, the cat's dying. Well, you take your 5-year-old to the vet, explain what's happening, and have the 5-year-old hold the kitty cat while the vet gives the shot, and the cat dies and goes to kitty heaven in the little girl's arms. Teach her compassion and to deal with grief. How are your kids going to learn to deal with real life if they never have experiences to learn how to do it? They don't know the coping skills to deal with anger, anxiety, depression, and guilt, and shame, and feelings of inferiority. How do you teach them how to do that? You discuss these things. These things happen to kids all the time. You don't hide from it. Happening more and more, some kid at school offs himself. You sit with your kids and you go, sometimes people feel so bad they think that ending it is the best way to deal with the feelings, except it's permanent, which means no more television, no more friends, no more spaghetti, no more petting your dog, no more going to the movies, no more vacations. What kids around your age and young adults forget is that death is permanent. And that's not the thought that the person has when they're killing themselves. They just want to stop the pain. Yeah, that blunt a conversation. If you're in that much pain, these are the things you do. You come to me, you go to a therapist, you go to a minister. These are the things you do. Because you will suffer that kind of pain sometime in your life. There's not a person on the face of the earth who hasn't said, wish I were dead. I just don't want to deal with this pain. And you ask your kid point blank, hasn't that thought ever crossed your mind? And when they ask you if it's crossed yours, say, of course. When I was a kid, of course it did. Thank God I didn't, because I didn't realize it was permanent. It just seemed like a way out of whatever it is I was feeling. So, Teaching your kids how to deal with emotions, not denying them, is a very important way of making them functional adults. Setting goals. Good practice at the beginning of the school year is to encourage your kids to set up a personal goal, whatever it is. And a kid who achieves that goal receives a much greater sense of satisfaction when they made up the goal themselves and you didn't. This year, I want to be able to do 6 paintings, run a 1-minute mile, whatever. See how close you can get to your goal. Strong ethical values. One thing I can say about my dad is constantly he set up scenarios for me. He'd be at the dinner table, and I hated them because I was always worried I'd give the wrong answer. I'm sure most of the time I did. But he would set up ethical problems. There are 2 kids, there are 2 people, there are 3, there's a car, there's a this, there's a that. What's the right thing to do? Sound like a familiar thread for my life? Yeah, probably. It's about understanding the importance of ethics in every aspect of life. At school, they teach you no cheating. At a store, no stealing. At home, no lying. In the neighborhood, don't destroy anybody's property. And why? All kids lie. Most stop. They lie because it's convenient to get out of trouble, to get something they want, whatever. It's just normal part of development. So my kid was doing the normal part of development, and I decided I had had enough of it. So I drove him to school, and I said, when you get out of school, we're going to go to McDonald's. I'm sorry, in those days I didn't know the food was bad. We're going to go to McDonald's and get the French fries. I mean, Derek and I could put away more French fries than you could think about. Grease and salt. You have a sweet tooth any day, I'll take grease and salt. Okay. I pick him up at school. I drive right by the McDonald's. And he's going, whoa, 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 whoa. You said we were going to McDonald's. And I turned to him and I gave him one of my most beautiful maternal smiles and said, I lied. How does it feel? Not very good. He started to cry, and I said, that's pretty much how I feel when you lie to me. It hurts the relationship. That's what I said it did. I said it hurts the relationship. You don't know if you can believe me anymore. You know that I set out to hurt you. This is all terrible for the relationship, isn't it? Yes! That's how I feel when you lie to me. They don't see it in that perspective until you teach them about that perspective. They only see it from their point of view. I lie, I can go to Johnny's house. Spiritual development, I'll leave that for your own personal. But one thing my dad always said, don't disrespect anybody else's religion. Unless, of course, they're using it to kill you. Giving back, last but not least, development of empathy and compassion. I wrote a kid's book, and if you go on Amazon, there are a lot of idiots who are so dumb. Some of these parents did not understand at all what I was getting to. And then there are the parents who did, of course. But I want it, was the name of it. And this kid is in the store supposedly buying a gift for the cousin with his mom, and he wants everything. He wants every stuffed animal there is. Has no sense of getting something for somebody else. So mom buys 20 stuffed animals, brings them all home. He had a stuffed animal, by the way. Brings them all home. He's got these stuffed animals coming out of his ears in the bedroom. So some of these idiot parents who wrote comments on Amazon.com wrote, well, who can do that? What a stupid thing to do to buy all the And I'm thinking, do they think this is a how-to book? It's a storybook you read to kids to teach them a lesson, not a how-to book for parents. Oh, God. There are times it's very hard to be patient. So his kitty cat that he's had his whole life is somehow buried with all of these stuffed animals. And you have to read the book. It's a picture book, so it's not very long. But basically, he starts thinking about how the one kitty cat was with him when he was sick, when he was scared with the thunder. And he goes through how his relationship with the one stuffed animal was meaningful, but having a lot of stuff wasn't. That was the lesson. Meaning. So Mom then says, what are we going to do with all these stuffed animals? And in the last scene, he has them in his radio flyer, dragging them to the children's orphanage, to give them to all the kids so they can each have one animal they can count on. I thought it was a great story. It's called But I Want It. And you've got 20-year-olds in your house saying that as why you should give them money. Because I want it. That's my parenting lesson for today. I hope you've all learned something. My number, 1-800-375-2872. We're going to take a break and back with your calls.